Wait, before we start the lecture, let me welcome you to the Tamsara Academy. I hope you'll love the lecture. If yes, do support us by subscribing us and leaving your reviews in comments.
Welcome to Tamsara Academy. Today, we are going to learn about Maricha, the absolute sharpest edge of the legendary Trikatu triad. If you've been grinding through your mystery Kakagana studies, you already know how massive this group is. But Maricha? Man, it is a total powerhouse, and it demands our full attention today.
We are going to dive right into the ultimate pro-drug profile for black pepper. We'll break down exactly what you need to know to absolutely crush this section of your syllabus and really understand how this incredible plant works.
We've got a really solid roadmap for this explainer. We're going to breeze right through the nomenclature and Pharmacognosy, uncover exactly why it's considered the ultimate rule breaker in Ayurveda, dig into some real-world clinical therapeutics, talk dosage, and then wrap it all up with that crucial Trikatu comparison.
All right, let's just jump right in and meet the star of the show, black pepper.
So, knocking out those foundational NCISM syllabus requirements. Its botanical name is Piper nigrum, from the Piperaceae family. But take a look at these classical Sanskrit synonyms. It's called Krishna, literally because of its dark black color, and Ushna, which means highly heating or pungent. That right there is a massive clue for your exams about its clinical action, by the way. Classically, it sits proudly as a primary herb in the Kapha shamana, or Kapha pacifying group.
Moving right along into its pharmacological profile.
First up in Pharmacognosy is the Prayojanga, the useful part of the plant. For Maricha, it's the pala, the dried fruit. You know exactly what this looks like, right? If you hold it in your hand, it's that small, round, deeply wrinkled black fruit. And of course, it's got that unmistakable, super aromatic, spicy odor that just instantly hits your senses.
Now here is the complete Ayurvedic breakdown, and you definitely want to take notes here because this is immensely testable. Its rasa, or taste, is katu, pungent. The guna as its properties are lagu, meaning light, ruksha, which is dry, and tikshna, or sharp. Its Veerya, the core potency, is ushna, hot. And its Vipaka, the post-digestive effect, it remains katu, strictly pungent. Lock this specific profile into your memory right now because it actually sets the stage for a pretty major twist.
And that twist brings us to exactly why we call Maricha the ultimate rule breaker. Okay, here is a massive pro-exam tip for you. Classical Dravyaguna specifically lists Maricha as a prime example of Vichitrapratyayarabdha. I know, it's a long Sanskrit word, but it basically just means an exception to the rule or an unpredictable pharmacological action. Think about its famous peers, Shunti and Pipali. Once they're inside the body, their post-digestive effect actually turns sweet and unctuous. But Maricha? No way. It fiercely refuses to change. It remains strictly pungent and hot throughout the entire digestive process. It fundamentally impacts the body's tissues differently over time, strictly enforcing its fiery nature from start to finish.
So how does all this intense theory translate into actual clinical action?
Well, looking at its primary actions, it's a fantastic dipana, an appetizer that really stokes the digestive fire. It's also pachana, a digester of toxins, but uniquely, it is pramathi, meaning channel clearing. In terms of dosha karma, because of that extreme heat and dryness we just talked about, it aggressively pacifies kapha and vata, but, and this is a very big but, you've got to be careful. It is highly pittakopaka, meaning it severely aggravates pitta or internal heat. You absolutely do not want to give this blindly.
So, with such a sharp, aggressively hot profile that basically breaks standard metabolic rules, how does this actually apply when a real, living, breathing patient walks into your clinic? Let's crack open some medical case files. Imagine a case of scrotorrhoda, completely blocked channels. You've got a patient presenting with severe asthma or maybe a heavy, wet cough where this thick, stubborn mucus is just totally glued to their respiratory walls. Standard drying herbs? They just aren't going to cut it here. The treatment calls for Maricha. Why? Because it doesn't just dry the mucus out, it's sharp, tikshna nature, actively and aggressively scrapes that stubborn mucus directly out of the airways.
And that exact scraping action brings us right back to that specific term from your syllabus, Pramathi. Seriously, flag this for your AIAPGET prep. Pramathi literally refers to forcefully expelling accumulated doshas from the cellular channels, the scrotus. Maricha is your textbook Pramathi drug. It's like taking a botanical wire brush to your patient's internal tubing.
Here is a second real-world clinical application, Sthaulya, which closely correlates to obesity and high cholesterol.
When your patient has excess body fat and a really sluggish metabolism, Maricha is deployed as the ultimate fat scraping or lakana treatment. Because it is purely pungent and totally dry, it aggressively burns fat and absorbs the excess bodily moisture that is the absolute hallmark of the Kapha dosha.
Okay, let's switch gears for a second and talk about dosage administration and a bit of lab assessment.
Now, you've all probably been in the lab for this because the NCISM syllabus actually mandates laboratory practicals for Dravyaguna. You are literally required to assess Maricha's Agniyatva, its fiery nature, using modern objective parameters. You test the moisture content and pH levels in the lab to scientifically validate the ancient Ayurveda claim of Maricha's intense, dry heat. It's honestly so cool, it's exactly where classical text meets modern science.
When it actually comes to clinical administration, though, the standard powder, the churna, dosage is incredibly small. We're talking just 0.5 to 1 gram. It is that potent. And hey, a very serious clinical warning. Because it is so heating and sharp, you absolutely must administer this with extreme caution in patients who have acidity, ulcers, or high pitta. Do not forget that.
Finally, we cannot talk about Maricha without bringing it all together in the Trikatu comparison.
Because Maricha doesn't just stand alone, it is the crucial, final member of the legendary Trikatu triad, the three pungents. On top of that, it's a core structural member of Shadushana, which is another massive, mandatory formulation in your syllabus. Without Maricha's unyielding heat, these classical formulas simply would not work the way they do.
When we compare the triad side by side, it's actually an amazing contrast. This is a brilliant cheat code for your exams, so listen up. Pipali is pungent, sure, but its post-digestive effect is sweet and unctuous, making it fantastic for rejuvenation. Shunthi is also pungent, sweet post-digestion, and unctuous, perfect for settling the stomach. But our star today, Maricha, it is pungent, its post-digestive effect stays strictly pungent, and it is entirely dry. That is exactly why it is the absolute go-to spice for scraping fat and clearing out those blocked channels.
Maricha is such a fascinating anomaly. It's a drug that absolutely refuses to adapt to the body, and instead, it forces the body to adapt to its heat. So I'm going to leave you with this thought to chew on. If Maricha breaks all the pharmacological rules just to forcefully scrape away Kapha, what other brilliant rule-breaking exceptions do you think are hiding right now in your Vichitrapratyayarabdha textbook? Keep digging, keep questioning, and keep mastering that syllabus. Thanks for joining me today on this explainer.